In this video, we're exploring the various qview modes. This is again part of our 5-part series on qview. Um, there are in fact 4 modes of qview. I would be willing to bet almost any amount of money that if you've ever used qview, you're only aware of one. And that's just a function of that's probably the only one you've been exposed to, but there are in fact 4. The first is the first one we had, which is linked with Quincy. This means that qview is effectively being your viewer for Quincy. Actions you take in Quincy are reflected in qview. The next mode is probably the most common. That's delinked with Quincy. You've launched it from within Quincy, but you're happy just using qview. And so this doesn't respond to actions in Quincy. It's sort of off on its own. The next sort of evolution of this one was login mode. This allows you to log directly into qview, and it actually is fast becoming the most common use of qview. This is where you didn't even bother to fire up Quincy because everything you needed is in qview, and you're just happy using it. So you just have it as a desktop icon, and you're good to go. And the last mode is one I'm willing to bet you're not even aware exists, and that's the offline mode. And that's something separate and apart from sort of any of these. It's got other components in it. It's got a lot of cool capabilities in it. And if you're a forensics practitioner, this might be really of meaningful value to you. Probably not, though, if you're within the legal environment. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and explore these different modes. The first two. Actually, let me take a step back for a second. A lot of this video is going to be quite complex because it's going to talk about altering the launch criteria of qview, excuse me. There is good content in this that's not overly technical, and so just fast forward through the parts where we're talking about altering the launch commands. But in any event, let's go to it. I'm going to hop onto my desktop. And here's my qview icon, and I'm going to right click on this thing, and I'm going to show properties. And you can see, listen, look at this. This launches qview. That's that first part. It's identifying where the pro executable is. And then it has a dash L. Dash L means login mode. That means if I double click on this icon, it's going to present me with a login screen. It assumes I'm not in sync with Quincy. And because I'm not in sync with Quincy, I have to tell it which Quincy server I'm going to be utilizing. You can utilize it with any number of different Quincy servers. If you have multiple in your environment, you probably only have one. But let's go ahead and launch it in this mode and see what happens. So I just double click on it. If you're on a desktop environment that also has your Quincy server, for this to work, obviously you're going to have your Quincy server running. Okay, so now look, it's asking me for my username and login. It's already saved the base URL I'm using. This is my machine name here in the 4443. And if I just now enter my username, and then my password and log in, it should show me one case, demo case, perfect, it works. And then I can start to interact with it the way I would in any of the modes. So that's the first mode we're talking about anyway. That's the /L mode. That's login. Now, note the various options here. I've got home, panels, and search. And those are important because they're going to be slightly altered when I log into the next mode we're going to talk about, which is the /O mode. /O is offline. So let's go ahead and apply this. Continue. Let's kill this. Now let's go ahead and double click on this icon again and see what happens. Again, you can see it did, well, you can immediately see it did not offer me the login, and these options are now different. There's a whole video on how to use it in this mode, so I'm not going to talk about that. But you can see you've lost the ability to select case. Instead, you're selecting offline data files to view. And you've got imager capability, the ability to explore drives and create images and process evidence. This is, again, much more geared towards a forensics practitioner than it would be to a typical review, to a typical legal user. So that's the offline mode. Let's go ahead and close that. Properties. We're going to go back and switch this to L, just because I want mine to be L. So continue and OK. All right, now let's explore the remaining two modes, both of which you get to the same way. Let's open up my Quincy, which is already opened. I'm going to go to my grid. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go down to QView and I'm going to select open. Now I have to have already downloaded it for this to work, or I don't have to actually, have downloaded it. I need it running on my machine. So let's go ahead and select open. Now what this is doing is it's telling my registry, or it's telling my machine that commands that I, not only to open QView, but that commands that I execute in the browser should also be passed to QView. So you can see it's Quincy Web. It's not Quincy Standalone. These are the two modes, two remaining modes. Quincy Web is the one where we're fundamentally linked to Quincy. So if I go ahead and click on this Halloween image in Quincy, and then I go back to QView, there's the Halloween image. Fundamentally, stuff I do in Quincy is going to occur in QView. And it's really a great dynamic. It allows you to utilize a lot of the power of Quincy at the same time using the incredible speed of QView for viewing and the better viewing dynamic. Okay, so now let's talk about the last mode. The last mode is standalone, and you can toggle between these two. To get to here, though, you have to have launched it through Quincy. So this is sort of the two Quincy modes, if you will. We're clicking on standalone. Now you can see it offers me a case dropdown, same as we did when we logged into login mode. And when I select the case, it's offering me a grid that I can click through. If you're really just looking to review, this mode or the login mode are clearly the better two modes. No reason to interact back and forth with Quincy if you're just trying to review. But if you're trying to do some parsing or maybe more complex analysis for which you want the Quincy capabilities, then maybe the linked mode is what you want, in which case you can go standalone Quincy Web, and look, you can toggle between them. You do not need to pick one for an entire session. You could go back and forth. So anyway, those are the 4 different modes of QView, and I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you're able to take advantage of all 4 modes. As always, if you have any questions, please post them, and thank you very much for your time.